After almost 20 days on the road, we're finally leaving BC and driving into Yukon. We're exploring the border town of Watson Lake, the First Nations town of Tlingit along the Alaska Highway, and getting to Whitehorse, the capital of Yukon. We've arrived in Yukon and we're checking out Watson Lake's signpost forest. When I first heard about the signpost forest, I thought there were going to be maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 posts. This really is a forest of signs. And there are so many different types of signs too. There's personal signs like the one behind me. There are funny signs, license plates, markers to other destinations, and signs from actual city limits. I wonder if all these signs were obtained legally. As I'm just finding out, this forest is so famous that people actually bring signs here from all over the world. They plan their trip and plan the signs out before they come here, and then they have them ready to put up when they get here. Look how much detail went into this one. I love it. The new signposts are right behind me, so if you remember to bring a sign when you're visiting Watson Lake, there's room for you to hang it. It's pretty amazing to look at all these signs and see all the different people that have been up to this pretty remote part of the world. Despite the bright sky, it's late, so we're going to find a free spot to camp our microcamper tonight. Today we're headed for the town of Teslin, which was such a popular town during the Klondike Gold Rush that the Hudson Bay Company set up a trading post there. Soon after, the Nisutlan trading post was set up to replace the Hudson Bay trading post and to serve the Tlingit First Nations people, and that trading post still exists today. But first, let's do a quick hike to a waterfall. Well, Yukon, I hope you've got more for us than this, because this is like a Tuesday in British Columbia. I think we need to readjust our thinking a little bit. All along the Cassiar Highway up through Dease Lake and Jade City and now through Yukon, all these little rest areas are so much smaller than we're expecting. Now, I'm not expecting the huge en routes from Ontario or the really big rest areas you get throughout these states, but this is something else. I'm glad we sleep in the car. We've made it to Teslin. One of the attractions here is the George Johnston Museum. George Johnston was a member of the Tlingit First Nation and was an entrepreneur and innovator. Despite there being no roads, he was the first person in the area to own a car, then subsequently had 6 miles of road built so he had somewhere to drive it. Years later, when Chevrolet found out his story, they restored his car, which can be seen today at the George Johnston Museum. Time to find a spot to camp along the Alaska Highway. Looks like we'll be sleeping in our SUV at a government campsite next to the lake. We just woke up and we're super excited to leave camp this morning. Johnson's Crossing is only about 30 minutes away, and apparently they have excellent breakfast and super delicious cinnamon buns. Our breakfast was delicious. We started with a hot breakfast sandwich and finished with a homemade cinnamon bun. And over breakfast, we even got to chat with 2 octogenarians riding from Alaska to Panama. On to our final destination for the day, Whitehorse Yukon. Can you tell it gets cold here? These plugs don't mean the car is electric. Our first stop in Whitehorse is Miles Canyon. Because the bridge is made from wood, it sounds a little more rickety than your usual suspension bridge. Now on to the fish ladders. On our way, we passed the famous SS Klondike, which brought goods up and down the Yukon River from Skagway, Alaska to Dawson City, Yukon before the major roads were established. Behind me are the rapids on the Yukon River, and the salmon used to swim upstream up here so that they could spawn. But once Yukon Energy built the dam to conduct some energy, the salmon were no longer able to swim upstream. And so the fish ladder was built to allow the salmon to continue on their route, even with the dam. Chris has found us an amazing and historical spot for us to spend the night, so let's head there. I am so excited about this camp spot for the night. Are you a Robert W. Service fan? If you are, maybe you've guessed what lake we're on. This is Lake Lebarge from the famous poem, The Cremation of Sam Mcgee, and we are staying here tonight. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Lebarge I cremated Sam Mcgee. This lake is so beautiful. I don't want to go to bed. I can't believe we got to spend last night on Lake Lebarge. What an amazing part of Canadian history and just such a beautiful lake. Now we're off to the Eclipse Hot Springs to relax on this Sunday morning before the work week starts. That was very nice. They have 3 pools, each of different temperatures, the coldest being about 33 degrees Celsius, the hottest being about 41 degrees, and a relaxation room as well, which is heated. My favorite was the hottest pool there was. I could just sit in there for hours and stay really warm. Just down the road from the spa is the Yukon Wildlife Preserve, so we're going to check that out now. Our first stop is the Rehab Center. Behind me is an animal rehabilitation center, which I'm pretty sure we recognize from a Yukon vet show we were watching. One of the animals that's supposed to be in the reserve that I'm so excited to see is the muskox. I've never actually seen one in real life. They're just featured on one of my favorite shows, Alone, all the time, and I can't wait to see it. And along the way to the muskox, we're seeing a few moose, some tin-horn sheep, lots of mountain goats, and some caribou. The moose we're seeing here are the largest of all the moose varieties, and they're called the Alaska Yukon moose or the tundra moose. Behind me are some bison. Bison shouldn't be confused with buffalo, which, as we just found out, only exist in Africa and Asia. And finally, we have the muskox. And that's our time in Watson Lake, our drive along the Alaska Highway, our night camping on Lake Lebarge, and our visit to Whitehorse Yukon. Next on our road trip in our SUV camper, we're heading south to Carcross and then into Alaska.